Have you ever thought, man, I really want to live zero waste, but that's way too much money? I'm going to prove to you today that zero waste can not only be free, but might actually save you a little bit of money. Hello everyone, it's Emma and welcome back to my channel where we talk about all sorts of things zero waste, but I do focus on free, easy, and fun ways to live zero waste. I love making zero waste accessible and I love busting the myths of zero waste, that zero waste is hard, it's expensive, it's time consuming. It doesn't have to be. Today we're talking about 50 ways that you can conserve energy right here, right now, that are not only free, but will probably save you a little bit of money as well. The sister video to this one is how to conserve water. Again, not only a great way to live zero waste that is free, but can also save you money. You can check that out up here. If you have any more energy conservation tips, leave them down below so I can keep this series going and just show you all the ways that you can live zero waste for free. And also, you should check out my full series, Zero Waste on a Budget. I talk about 25 tips in each of those videos, very random tips. I'm up to 275 ways to live zero waste totally for free, so go check it out. Alright, the first area we're going to be talking about for energy conservation is the kitchen. One of my favorite ways to conserve energy is by making sun tea. It's a summer specialty in the United States. I know some people came for me who were from England in my shorts video I made about it. If I like it, I like it. If you don't like it, shut up. This is a great way to conserve energy. Instead of using a kettle to boil water or even putting it in the fridge to make cold brew, which is the next one, putting it out in the sun. It's free solar energy. And maybe I'm just a little, I don't know, biased, I suppose, but I think it tastes so much better. Alright, similar to that, our next one is just to cold brew your tea or your coffee instead in the fridge. This won't use any more energy than your fridge is already using to run. But again, by not having to boil water on the stove, you are saving money in that way. And this is super easy, especially if you like cold brew. Then you don't have to buy it in plastic bottles anymore. When you are making coffee or tea or even like pasta and veggies boiling on the stove, only use the amount of water you need. My favorite method, do I have my mug right here? I do. I'll fill up my mug to however high amount of tea that I want, and then I'll pour that water into my kettle instead of just filling up the kettle all the way. It takes so much energy to boil a full kettle of water if you only need half of a mug full of water. It'll also save you time because it takes forever to heat up that much water. It takes very little time to heat up this much water. But this also goes for like pasta and veggies, like I said, for steaming or boiling them. We got a box of like ready-made mac and cheese a couple weeks ago, and it said to boil a gallon of water for like a craft size box of mac and cheese. I'm like, that's like 2 handfuls of noodles. A gallon of water? What a waste. Only boil however much you need. When you are boiling water, whether it be in the kettle or like a pot to boil to ready it for pasta, put the lid on. Why? This keeps the heat inside and it makes it boil faster. Maybe I should do an experiment. If you do need to heat stuff up though, consider using the microwave over the stove because the microwave uses considerably less energy, mostly just because it's quicker. You only have to run the microwave for a minute or two while you might have to run the stove for 5-10 minutes. When you're nearly done cooking or baking, turn off the stove or the oven and let the residual heat continue to bake the items or cook them. For example, when I know my soup is just about done, but like it needs, I don't know, just a little more time to simmer, I'll just turn it off because it's still scalding hot and it'll keep cooking in there. Same with baking. My banana bread recipe, actually, I have found out that it works best this way anyway, and it also saves energy to bake my banana bread for 45 to 50 minutes and then turn the oven off and then just leave the banana bread in there to cool. And then it'll continue baking for a few minutes while the oven is still hot and reach the point of perfection. And speaking of baking, don't preheat your oven too early. I know a lot of recipes call for like preheat your oven as step 1, but for me personally, it takes me so long to like prep all my stuff that needs to go in the oven. By the time the oven beeps, I'm only like halfway through mixing the ingredients. And what a waste for it to sit there at full temperature for another 10 or 15 minutes with nothing in there. So figure out what works for you. For example, when I'm baking cookies, I wait until I'm finally done with the batter, and then when I'm like ready to scoop the cookies onto the tray, that's when I'll preheat the oven because that's about how long it takes for me to scoop onto the tray and the oven to preheat. This one I learned by mistake. I did this, couldn't have been in Vegas, right? Because we had a gas stove in Vegas. This must have been in Okinawa when we had an electric stove. Don't turn on the wrong burner. With the gas stove, it's pretty hard because you can see the flames, but with an electric stove, can't see it until it's really, really hot and red. 10 minutes later, you're like, how is my water not boiling yet? Because I turned the wrong burner on. So be very mindful about turning the wrong burner on. This can save you time and energy. The next time you're making baked goods, consider using no electricity. Now, I don't mean bake your cookies out in the sun. What I mean is, if the recipe calls for a hand mixer or a stand mixer, mix it by hand. Of course, this depends on how able-bodied you are, how much time you have, how much energy you have. Because some days you're just like, I need to make brownies really lazily. And of course, like with all these tips, a lot of them are very minuscule amounts of energy that will being saved, but it's what adds up in the long run. So yeah, consider mixing by hand instead. And a little bonus tip here is to just eat the cookie dough raw. Now, I'm not condoning that. Go with your gut. with your health risks and all that stuff, but I am willing to risk eating cookie dough raw. Not only to save energy, but because I like raw cookie dough. But this will save energy by not having to bake cookies. Before you put something in the fridge, make sure that it's cooled down completely, or at least a majority of the way. If you put something hot into your refrigerator, it's going to heat up the entire fridge, and it's going to take so much energy to cool the entire thing down, and then also cool your meal down. So let it cool at room temperature first, and then put it in the fridge. This one might come as a surprise to you, but this tip is to eat less meat. What does this have to do with energy? I have a full video on the full environmental impact of eating meat versus plants, including plant-based meats. You can check it out up here. But eating meat has a huge resource footprint to include water, energy, and other resources. It takes a lot of energy to grow crops to feed a 1,000-pound cow, or even like a 300-pound pig. I don't know how big pigs get. So the fewer animals we eat, the less energy we're actually consuming. Alright, moving on to laundry and cleaning. First is to wash your laundry on tap cold, not cold, because it takes energy to cool down our water as well as it takes energy to heat up our water. So clicking tap cold means whatever temperature the tap water is coming out as, that's the temperature your clothes are going to be washed at. Therefore, using the littlest amount of energy to either heat or cool down your water. Of course, this one should be obvious, that is to air dry your clothes. This depends on your area. As I learned in Vegas, well, we just put in a clothesline without asking. They didn't complain about it when we moved out. But I found out afterward, after posting about it on TikTok, that some HOAs, mine probably included, don't allow you to put up a clothesline, even if you have a fenced-in backyard. Even if it's in the backyard, because it's an eyesore. I hate HOAs. I should make a full video on that, even though it has nothing to do with sustainability. Air drying your clothes can save so much energy. Over the long run, of course. Vegas, we ran our drying machine like 3 times. So once or twice a week, we were saving a full load's laundry worth of energy by drying it outside. The sun is totally free, and the sun can also work as a disinfectant and a de-stinker, so bonus points from the sun. Speaking of that, the next one is to disinfect your items in the sun. For example, actually right now, I guess, oh, well, it's on the ground now because it's really windy today, but Denahi's bed blanket was very stinky. I washed it yesterday and it was still kind of stinky, so I'm like, you know what? We're gonna put it out in the sun and see if the sun can disinfect and de-stink it. I'll take you out there after this and do a sniff test and see if it's still stinky. Okay, hopefully the wind noise isn't too terrible, but let's do a sniff test. I'm not even joking. What? I've never done this before. It's not it was so smelly. Like I said in other videos, I'm so sensitive to smells. I'm so impressed. I'm gonna keep it out here. Next is to use a broom over a vacuum. Again, if you have the capability, the time, the energy, the ability to do this. This is not something that I really thought of until we moved into the RV and I only use a broom, but I'm like, oh my gosh, we're saving so much energy by not using a vacuum. Maybe not so much. Again, it's all cumulative, right? 1 day worth of not using a vacuum versus a year or 2 or 3 years of not using a vacuum. That's the difference we're talking about. And similar to that, when you're working outside, use a broom or a rake over a leaf blower to save energy, especially with like a leaf blower that runs off of gasoline. You could save money on gas that way too. Bringing it back to our laundry, set your washing machine, your drying machine, and other stuff too, like your dishwasher, to the eco setting. This typically will save water and save energy. So if you didn't know, conserving water will conserve energy because it takes energy to pump all of the water. So again, definitely go check out my water conservation video for more energy conservation tips. So these are general bathroom tips plus a few water conservation tips tied into here. The first one is to not use the hot water if you don't have to. In general, I'm not saying you need to take cold showers. Now that is a tip I'm sure we're going to talk about next. But if you don't need hot water to wash your dishes, don't use hot water. If you don't need hot water to fill up your water bottle or whatever, don't use hot water. Why? Because it takes energy to heat up water. So the more often that you just use like tap temperature water, tap cold, the more energy you're going to save. And like I said, the next one is to take cold showers in the winter and take hot showers in the summer. This is specifically for the energy conservation reasons. You know, do what you want. I'm not a cold shower person. I don't care how much I love the planet. I can't do cold showers, mostly because I have a condition called Raynaud's. I can't do the cold. But this is because in the winter, your groundwater is cold because the air is cold. And in the summer, your groundwater is hot because the air is hot. Do with that what you will. While you're showering, if your showers particularly gets really steamy, use that steam to essentially iron your clothes, to de-wrinkle your clothes. Instead of having to break out the iron later, you can just hang it up in your bathroom. The steam, the hotness will hopefully get all of the wrinkles or most of the wrinkles out of your clothes. Like I just mentioned, conserving water is conserving energy, so just conserve water to save energy. Again, go check out that video. Have you always wondered, I have, why paper towels, disposable paper towels in a bathroom are the size that they are? That's because they actually, oh, do not, he's snoring, sorry. That's because they are designed designed to be that size because you only need one if you shake off your hands first. So this tip is to shake off your hands before reaching for a paper towel so that you only have to grab one. This is just a bonus tip, is to conserve everything that you use, and maybe we'll talk about it later, but like use less shampoo, use less toilet paper, use less toothpaste, use enough, obviously use enough, but like you don't need a whole handful of shampoo. You don't need a giant wad of toilet paper. Every little amount, resources that we take to conserve, and that's conserving energy because it takes resources to create this stuff. But yeah, shake off your hands or just let your hands air dry instead of reaching for a paper towel. Next is to air dry your hair. If you wash your hair, you have long hair and you typically blow dry it, let it air dry if you can. I am a night showerer. So when I shower at night, I don't need my hair to I don't need it to dry nicely. I can fix it in the morning if I have to. That's the extent of that one. Just air dry your hair. And another hair tip is to try heatless curls instead of using a curling iron. This, especially when I was younger and my hair's still really thick, but my hair was even thicker when I was younger, and I would like curl my hair for a school dance or for dance recitals or whatever. It would take, I'm not kidding, hours to curl all of my hair. And so heatless curls would save so much energy. I did do heatless curls a lot, and you can do it on a budget too. You can just use scrap fabric. Moving on to traveling. The simplest one in this category is to carpool. Carpooling can save so much energy. If you're carpooling to work or carpooling to school, eat with your friends or your coworkers, your classmates. If there's 5 of you and you go to work 5 days a week, each of you now only has to drive once. Each of you is cutting your gas usage in fifths, saving you money, saving energy by not having to use as much gas. That's getting 4 cars off the road every day. Similar to that is to walk, ride your bike, or take public transportation. All of these will reduce energy consumption by not using as much fuel. When you're in your car, set your cruise control to get the best miles per gallon by not having to accelerate and stop. Obviously, this is best for highway driving, so I guess bonus tip, stick to the highways when you're driving for the most fuel efficient route. But actually, something really cool that Google does now is they will show you the most fuel efficient route with a little green leaf. This is for when you're booking your flights or like Google Maps for your car. So check that out for the most fuel efficient route. Oh, hey, that was the next tip. At Google Flights, their little green icon. This tip is inspired by living in Vegas and the previous renters not changing their address. We got their mail all the time. Change your address when you move because you will get mail lost. It's just sent to your old address. It's not forwarded. Specifically things like packages that now have to be sent out twice all over the country if you move across the country. So change your address when you move to save gas when it comes to shipping mail and stuff. Now let's talk about tech. Simply turn off the lights when you leave a room. This should have been tip number 1. I'm sure everybody thinks of this when they think of like living a more eco-friendly lifestyle, is conserving our light usage. Also unplug devices that are not in use. This is called vampire power. Again, it's very minuscule, but it does actually use power. Like if you leave your phone charger in, there's still power circulating through the cable. So if you unplug it, then there's not going to be that energy usage. As you can see, like I'm doing today, I have the blinds open on a nice sunny day, though it is kind of cloudy and it's messing up my good lighting. During the day, in sunny parts of the country like Spokane and Las Vegas, we never use lights during the day. Also today, you might be able to hear it with the birds. We have all the screens open as well because today is beautifully cool for once and windy, which really helps. So we're using the airflow as our AC/fan for the day instead of using energy. When your light bulbs die, get energy efficient ones, and when your appliances die, get more energy efficient ones. These tips aren't necessarily free, but if you're in the market for these things, you might as well opt for more eco-friendly ones. When you are done with your computer, particularly a desktop, because laptops typically put themselves to sleep when they're not in use when you close them, but desktops not so much. So if you have a desktop, put it to sleep when you're done with it. Put it to sleep at night when you go to sleep so that it's not sitting there running all night long. Don't mindlessly stream media. I'm pretty sure a lot of us have this bad habit of like putting on a show on Netflix and then getting on our phone. Don't do that because now you're consuming 2 forms of media and both of them are consuming and using energy. So if you're gonna watch Netflix, watch Netflix. If you're gonna scroll on your phone, scroll on your phone. Don't do both. You can clear out your phone data as well as on your computer, old emails, photos, old apps, old notes. And why is this helpful? It will make your phone run more efficiently, meaning you have to charge it less. As well as things like, I guess all of it. All of it has to be stored somewhere. In your iCloud, in the general cloud. Gmail might have their own cloud, but all of this data versus data, argue below. But all of this data has to be stored somewhere. They're stored in storage facilities, and these storage facilities have to be run off of energy. So the less data in there that you have, the less energy that you're contributing to that consumption. And don't forget to empty your trash and recycling folders too. It's really easy to go in and like delete emails from your inbox, but don't forget that it goes to the trash folder, and then you also have to empty the trash folder. Unsubscribe from junk mail, whether that's physical mail or emails as well, because again, emails, that data still has to be stored somewhere. But with physical mail especially, it takes energy to grow those trees. It takes energy to ship that mail across the country, across the world. So if you're not interested in it, unsubscribe. While you're at work or at school, turn off the heat or AC, or just turn it down lower. Like, for example, in the summer in Las Vegas, I wouldn't turn off the heat or the AC entirely because it would get 115 there during the day. And I have critters who I don't want to roast. So instead of keeping our AC set to like 72, I would crank it up to like 79. That way it's using less energy to keep a house super, super cold in a very hot environment. But like during times of the year, like spring and fall, where it's very, you know, neutral temperatures, you can turn it off entirely during the day and then come home and turn on the AC or heat, whatever you need. You can also keep the blinds closed to keep your house insulated. Again, the more insulated you keep it, the less energy that has to be run to heat or cool. This tip, you can tell I learned this one working an office job. Check your printer settings. Make sure that it's printing how you want it to print. Do you want it printed double-sided? Do you want it printed in color? Do you want it printed only a certain amount of pages? Checking your printer settings will ensure that you're not wasting paper. Turn off notifications on your phone so that it doesn't light up so often. If you have notifications going off, your phone's gonna light up, and it's gonna light up, and it's gonna light up, and that's using battery. Additional tip here, if you want to keep your notifications on, keep your phone stored face down so that when you do get a notification, it doesn't light up. And we already talked about our bonus tip for the day, which is just conserve everything that you use. Not just energy, not just water, but consume all sorts of resources. But I'll give you an extra bonus tip since we already talked about that one, and that's to recycle. You can learn more about the importance of recycling in this video right here, but especially things like paper, things that, I mean, all of them take insane amounts of resources to harvest and extract and use. And it's very, very valuable to recycle paper, glass, and metal. Plastic recycling is still not very valuable, and that's because of oil lobbying. Maybe I should make a full video about that. Why plastic recycling sucks. Because obviously recycling doesn't suck. Metal recycling is at like 70%. Plastic is at 9%. Anyway, recycle. Recycling will save energy in the form of, you know, it takes water to grow trees. It takes energy to use drills to harvest metals. It takes energy to run equipment to extract sand from the beaches and so forth. So recycle to save energy as well. Moshi wanted to say hello, didn't you? Abby wants to say hello. Say hi. Say hi. Don't be rude. Fine. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate your time, especially if you made it all the way to the end, and I'm so glad you're excited about conserving energy like me. Again, definitely check out my water conservation video, and definitely check out my full series, 11 videos now, on how to live zero waste completely for free. If you have any more energy conservation tips, leave them down below. I would love to make a part 2 to this. Next week, I'm finally spilling the tea. We're talking about wasteful things I hate about Spokane, about Washington. Not all of Washington, because Washington's huge. This is a video series that I started in Japan, wasteful things I hate about Japan, and then I'm like, well, I gotta do it for Las Vegas, because Las Vegas is so wasteful. So stay tuned for that video, and then in the spring, I'm gonna do wasteful things I hate about Ohio. Finally, I grew up in Ohio, and I've never done this video version, but I'm going to be living in Ohio for a few months this winter while we transition between the military and civilian jobs. So I'll do wasteful things I hate about Ohio, and I'll try to keep it unbiased because I hate Ohio in general. Anyway, thanks again. I really appreciate your time. I'll see you next week, but until then, remember that your small actions make a big difference in the long run. Bye, guys. I'm gonna prove to you today that zero... That was good, but I messed up. Busting myths, and I love the busting... Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. Wow. More, I think. Wow. Bright right there. In the clouds again.